第10届集思广益表演艺术暨表演艺术产业，对不起。好，首先我们欢迎台师大表演艺术研究所的所长夏学礼所长来为我们致辞。
司仪辛苦了昨天晚上可能没睡好谢谢大家今天早上一大早来在礼拜6的这个一大早，要让大家能够来出席一个研讨会，确实还蛮挑战，因为大家做艺术的都习惯晚上很晚还在工作，早上一大早起来很挑战。我今天很高兴有这么多朋友在现场，准备要这个跟我们一起要迎接第一场这个纯英文的演讲。那待会大家希望能够很享受他的分享，因为Professor Maloney 他的从礼拜2到了我们台师大表演所跟我们做分享，到现在为止，每一场的分享都非常的幽默都非常的幽默，所以不用太担心你会听到一个好像似乎很严肃的主题，它是用非常浅显易懂、幽默的方式在描述一个很艰深、很艰困的一些题目，所以大家不要太担心它真的很精彩的。那么我们今天在这个研讨会也非常谢谢跟昨天一样，非常谢谢我们现场的从校内或者校外的听众之外，我们也很感谢我们表演所有很多的师长也在场，所以现在容我介绍一下我们今天出席的师长好，首先我们待会第一场的演讲的主持人何康国何教授何团长，欢迎，谢谢。然后再来是我们现场的吴义芳吴教授，梁文金梁教授，李燕仪李教授，还有我们大家非常敬重的盛涛法师。我们昨天开始确定，我们从此以后要称他盛涛法师。原来他有超能力，我们都不晓得昨天他的好朋友终于为我们解密了。原来他会做一些什么预言家一样的，所以以后我们都靠你了。OK， 好，那现场希望没有漏掉。昨天娟怡老师在现场，我们真的几乎认不出他来希望今天我没有漏介绍任何的老师，好吗？那如果还有其他的是校外的老师，那一样非常欢迎您。好，那我们就在正式开场以前，请容许我做一点小小的 ceremony， 好不好？因为Professor Maloney 这次来很辛苦，我们总应该要给他一个很有纪念性的一个小礼物。各位知道，礼物越小越贵，对不对？就是各位以后将来有人生的另一阶段的时候，你一定了解，你不会拿到一个很大的礼物。如果你拿到一个超小礼物，恭喜你，因为那一定超值钱的。那我们也准备了一个很小的礼物那这个小礼物呢是学校的一个很独特的纪念品。好，那我们现在就 Professor Maloney, may I have the honor for coming towards forward, and then I would like to presenting a very unique university token to you. Okay. 好，我们要不要奏乐一下？Again, my huge thanks, not just big thanks, but my huge thanks to Professor Maloney for his endeavors and contribution to GIP and TAU in the past week. And this tiny little gift, comparing to your size, I think it's overwhelming. Okay, it's overwhelming. Yeah. 这个是一个什么呢？我跟大家也先说明一下，因为我想他打开以后应该很高兴。Feel free to open it. Okay.
Oh, right now?
Yeah, if you like to. Okay. 这个是台湾的原木做的一个木盒，里头是台湾的竹子做的 USB。OK， 所以。It's okay because we have photo already.
Oh, okay.
好，那是我想我们作为一个永远不停的学习者，拥有一个这样子的一个 个小礼物啊，然后上头有学校的这个 logo， 应该是很有哦 ，even tiny 。哇哦，快抖一下！好，那总之呢，我们希望他这次第一次来亚洲，也是第一次来我们台师大。那么我也特别前2天不断地跟他说，只要他来亚洲，我们都欢迎他能够再来我们台师大。Okay? So Richard, I will say in front of all the audience, whenever you have a plan to come into Asia again, feel free to make us as a stop. Okay? Thank you, Richard. 好，谢谢。好，那我们现在就把时间交给我们第一场的论坛，我们今天的这个研讨会专题演讲的主持人何康国，我们台师大表演所第一帅哥，来，掌声鼓励。
好，谢谢夏所长。那这个礼拜相信大家的收获都非常丰富。那今天有一个完整的时间，我们要请Professor Maloney talk about the managing performing arts organization and cultural policy。那这几天他都是稍微讲了一点点。那如果昨天在现场的话，那个论坛他也是讲的比较少一点，15分钟。那今天这个时间是，如果您在现场的话，会听到比较多的时间哈。我们这一场的时间是到10点20。So our time from 9:10 to 10:20. So we have 1 hour from now. OK. 好，那我就不多说了哈，我把时间就交给我们的主讲人，帮我们掌声欢迎 Dr. Maloney。
Hello, here we go. Wow, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today. For all the faculty that are here, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great honor to speak to you again today. And I've had a wonderful experience being here, meeting many of you, many of the students, many of the faculty. It's been a wonderful experience, and I hope to return again soon. Today, as many of you know, I was here all week and giving a series of talks about policy and economic development and managing performing arts organizations and community development and some of the topics that are important to me. And so I sort of have a little bit of a summary, but also a few extra new things that I wanted to share with you on my final day. And so I called this a letter to a young arts manager. And there's some famous books out there, Letter to a Young Artist, and things like this out in the community. So I sort of adapted the title, and I'm calling it a letter to young arts managers. So sort of information or advice that I wanted to share with people that are starting out their career, and a few other things as well. But I thought that might be something to think about on the last day. So, an effective arts administrator, to me, serves as a bridge between the artist and the audience. And this is not an easy job, because we need to understand many, many things about this function in order to do it effectively. For example, an arts manager understands about art, business, and society. So we have a lot of things to learn. We need to learn about the particular art form that you love, whether it's dance or theater or symphonic music or opera or whatever your dance form is, whatever your form is. You need to understand business practices, strategic planning, finance, marketing, all those types of things that are so important. But you also need to understand about society, right? How the world works, how the community works, how the political system works, what's going on in your community. And so it's a very big job. It's not just one simple area, it's a very broad area of study. One of the things I think is so crucial for a young arts manager when you're starting out is you need to think deeply about what you love about the arts. Because one of your primary jobs as an arts manager is to communicate your love of the art to other people, right? Because everyone has friends, right? That you all, young people, all have friends, and they might say, why are you doing that? Why are you doing the arts? You know, why don't you work at a bank, right? Or why don't you get a job at your father's business or something? And you say, no, I love the arts. And they say, well, what is it about the arts that's so special? And you need to have that answer for yourself, and then you need to be able to explain it and share it with other people, right? So arts management is not an internal job. It's not something that you just love for yourself. You love it and you need to share it, okay? And that's not easy to do, because many young people, when they come to arts management, they're very, very deeply involved in the art. They might be a dancer. I have many dancers in my program. And all they do is they go to the studio, they practice dance, they do concerts, they practice. And so when they say, what do you love? They say, I love dance. And they say, I say, well, what do you love about dance? They say, everything. I say, okay. What about everything? You know, what does that mean? You know, can you share that with other people? And they say, I don't know, I just love it. Okay, well, that's not going to help build the audience for the arts, right? That's not going to help your organization be successful. You have to be able to communicate your love and your passion to other people, right? Because they have lots of other things to worry about, right? I always say our biggest competition is the couch and the internet. When you come home from work, you're tired. What do you want to do? I just want to lie on the couch, put on the TV, just order some food in, and just relax. But we're not those people. We like to go out and do things. Arts people, performing arts people, we go out. We go to a show. We mix with people. We visit with people. We see people. So our competition is the couch, right? It's not like the ballet. It's not the other theater, because that's what arts insiders think, right? When you ask an art person who's a theater person, they say, who's your competition? They say, oh, that theater down the street. That's the person I worry about. And I say, no. Worry about the couch. The couch is your competition, not the other theater. You know, getting people out of the house, into the community is what we need to do. So being able to explain and share so that people say, you're right, I'm not going to stay on the couch tonight. I'm going to get out into the community, do something new. Maybe even take a risk. Because what is it about going to a performance? We don't know what's going to happen. Now, some people love that because they think something bad's going to happen. Like the musician's going to make a mistake. And they're like, oh, I saw that. They made a mistake. You know. But hopefully something good is going to happen, right? You may not know the ending of the story. You know, I'm going to go to that play. Do you know? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to try it. And that's risky. People don't want to risk. You know, what do we get when we buy a book on Amazon? I said this in class the other day. You get that recommended for you list of books, all the same as the book you just bought. They want us to just buy the same thing over and over again, no risk. Right? But arts are about taking a risk. Right? A personal, emotional risk. And a financial risk. You know, it costs money. And somebody would say to me, why would I pay money for something I don't like? To take that risk, right? I say that reading the newspaper and going to the arts are like the only risky things now. Because when you open up the newspaper, what do you see? Bad news. Absolutely true. But you know, you don't know what it is until you open up the newspaper. And then like maybe you were looking for that story, that big story. Then what's next to the big story? Another story. Amazing and important to you. But when you read the newspaper, you don't know what's going to come next when you turn the page. Right? And when you go out to a show, you don't know what's going to happen. And and you don't know who you're going to be sitting next to. Right? They're not only your friends, unless you have a lot of friends and you brought them all to the theater, which would be great. But so reading the newspaper, there's some risk. Maybe that's why people don't do it anymore. They just go to the internet and they say, I want to look for the one thing and get 50 stories about that one thing I like. But that's not, hopefully that's not the way the world always works. And I think the arts can help with that. But we have to convince others that taking risks is okay. And maybe even having a failure is okay. Because isn't that what the arts teach us? We fail when we make art. And then we get back up and we do it again. So the worst thing in the world is not to have a failure, right? It's part of the learning process, right? Ken Robinson, the Sir Ken Robinson, the famous British arts educator, did a very famous TED Talk. It might be one of the, I think it's one of the most famous TED Talks. And he talks about being creative. And he said, if you're not prepared to make a mistake, you will never be creative. He said, you can't make only mistakes, but you have to be prepared emotionally and mentally to make a mistake, because you'll never try something risky enough to have a breakthrough if you only know the things you're trying to do. So we're going to think deeply about our life and the arts. We're going to improve our communication skills. And here's something to think about. This is just something that people talk about in business. Think about improving your strengths and sort of getting better at your weakness. But some people argue that it's not important to be completely balanced, to be strong in every single thing in your life, or to spend your whole life saying, like, oh, I'm bad at math, so I'm going to spend my whole life trying to become better at math. Right? That might make you unhappy. Identify your strengths and make them even stronger. We always have an expression in the United States that says, well, she's 1 in a million. Right? That means she's rare. Her talent is rare. But what if you were 1 in 10 million? Or 1 in 100 million? You would be unbelievably rare and incredibly valuable. So maybe think about identifying what you're good at and making yourself even stronger in those areas, instead of worrying completely about the things that you're not as good at. So today's arts administrators, they want a seat at the table, as we call it in the United States, right here. I talk in the class sometimes about how artists are usually seen as outsiders, loners, people that are on the edge of society, right? They're doing their work, just leave them alone. Those artists, they're over there, they're doing their art thing, we don't really understand it, just leave them alone and don't talk to them, right? Because they're scary and strange, all right? So, but you know, we can't always be outside the system. We may need to have our own studio to do our work, but we can't operate our entire lives on the side, not doing anything with society, and then say to society, you need to fund us. If we're not contributing to society, why would society want to contribute to us? Right? So we need to be aware of this. So if we stay outside the system, we will not have a voice in the decisions that are being made in our community. And this is what we see more of in the United States. The artists have always been on the outside for the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. And then at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, people started to say, you know, we're being left out of every important conversation about our community. They think we're an extra. They think the arts are what you do when the day is over and all the important work has been done. Then maybe you have a little art for fun. And I say, no, arts are at the center, not on the side for me. Right? Related to this, then, understand that much of the work we do as arts managers is now outside the organization. Again, I'm just saying this is from my perspective in the US. The inside work, of course, is important. We need to run our arts organization effectively. But now we're part of the community, and so we need to engage with other members of the community. Maybe we need to meet with politicians. Maybe we need to talk to private business owners in our community. Maybe we need to meet with educators that are talking to our young people. Maybe we need to meet with the other nonprofit leaders. I always say in America that if the ballet company was on one side of the street and the theater was on the other side of the street, they would never ever talk to each other. Because they say, no, we're ballet. You're theater. We have nothing in common. And I say, you're crazy. You are two sides of the same coin. The same with the visual arts. To me, performing arts are one side of the coin, visual arts are the other. We can learn from museums at the theater. Right? Got to keep our connections with our colleagues in other art forms open and build them. You know, museums have concert halls, a lot of them, or concert spaces, and they run concert series. They do performing arts as well. Right? And we may have large lobby or an area in our theater. Maybe we put up an exhibition in the lobby. So we're not just alone, and we can't think of ourselves as being isolated only in our area. Effective arts managers are team builders, very highly developed communication skills. A lot of times we're thinking about a legislative approach instead of an executive approach, sort of a government analogy, but the idea of a legislative body, which might be 200 or 300 lawmakers gathering to debate, versus the executive that might be the president, the one person who makes a decision. So many years ago we used to have that top-down, the leader. The top leader would make all the decisions. Now we're seeing more of the decision-making spreading out to different levels, and therefore the leader needs to have great communication skills, persuasive skills. You can convince people of your vision. Create followers, not demand followers. Okay? But it's time-consuming. It requires patience. Right? And some people just become frustrated and can't deal with it. But it's something to think about in terms of your skill set. Know when to lead, know when to follow. Listen well to other people. I have to admit, I like to talk, so I have to remind myself of this all the time. You got to listen, right? Because people will tell you what they want. You just have to listen. So arts leaders also have to understand some conceptual issues. And in the United States, we talk about things that used to be very, very distinct, but now are kind of blurry. They're kind of changing. Some of these concepts we used to rely on are changing, and that impacts how we manage. Artist and audience. I used to know who an artist was when I was young, and I used to know who the audience was. The artist was over here, the audience was over there. But now, does anybody know about participatory theater? I know you do. Participatory theater. People, the audience engaging in the theater production. We have a thing called Sleep No More in the United States, where you go into a house and there's a theater production, but you don't know who the actors are and you don't know who the audience is walking through the house. And suddenly the play will start. And then somebody next to you will become an actor. They're clearly an actor. And then sometimes they'll ask you to join in somehow. And people say, it's crazy, but it's riveting. It's unbelievably exciting. And you're like, well...
The terminology we use here is immersive.
Immersive. Okay, yes, absolutely. Immersive theater. Yeah. So that's kind of exciting, right? So, that's the audience and the artist are blurring. And we're seeing that in literature. We're seeing that with web-based things. I send it out on the web. You comment and change on it, send it back. Who's the artist anymore? I don't know. 6 people have changed it. So we're seeing that blurring. Profit and nonprofit in the United States were very, very clear. Profit did this, they wanted one thing. Nonprofits did that, they wanted something completely different. We never talked. All right, but now we see for-profit businesses trying to help the community. We see nonprofits trying to find ways of making more money. So the things are not so easy anymore, and this causes challenges for arts managers. The idea of fine art and popular art. In the United States, we've really struggled with this idea of elitism. People say, oh, that symphony music, that's just for rich people. Or that's for really smart, educated people. I couldn't understand that. And I don't like it. And I don't like you people that think that that's really good, because I think you're looking down on me. I think you're making fun of me because I don't know about the arts. Okay? We have to be so careful of that. We have to invite people into that conversation. In England, there's the former minister of the cultural agency talked about complex cultural experiences versus high culture and low culture, which means pop music could be considered part of art if it has a certain level of complexity, meaning that there are layers to a piece. In class, I talked about the other day that when, as young people, you all know like a song when it comes on the radio or you hear it on your iPod for the first time, and it's a huge, catchy song, and you hear like 1 minute of it and you go, that song, that's gonna be a number one. That's gonna be a huge hit. That song is so catchy, I love it. But what do you say after a week of hearing that song every day? Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of that song. They play it all the time, right? Because if it doesn't have a certain level of depth, you understand it right away. And that's what a catchy song is for, right? You have, you guys change the stage. You guys go from one thing to the next every 5 seconds. So if it doesn't grab you in 5 seconds, nobody's going to listen to it. But if you grab it in 5 seconds and you understand it in a minute, you're not going to want to hear that 500 times. You already understood it all in 1 minute. You're ready for the next thing. So it becomes kind of disposable, right? But art that has layers and complexity, you can come back to again and again and again. I used the example in class the other day of Yo-Yo Ma recording the Bach cello suites like 4 times. It's either 3 or 4 times. And so people say, why? It's the same music. What, did you like make a mistake the first time or something? You want to go back and fix it? No. He says, no, it's 10 years later. I'm a different man. I'm a different man than I was when I recorded it 10 years ago. I have more experience. I've thought more deeply. I've read more. I've learned more. And now I bring more of me to the music, and I see new things in the music that I didn't see before. And then another 10 years went by, and he said, I now know I missed this. I need to do it again because I missed this the other time. And I use the example of a Harvard professor that takes her class to the museum and makes each student sit in front of one painting for 3 hours. Now that sounds like that would drive you crazy, right? Sitting and looking at a painting for 3 hours, right? Make you crazy. But it's about observation, right? And she does this for doctors. For listening to patients to diagnose illness. She says you need to be focused and see the details, hear the details, listen for the details of the patient. Because the doctors are so smart, they're like, oh yeah, I know what's wrong with you. You said, doctor, I have a headache. Oh, I know what's wrong with you. I know what's wrong with you. Right? No, you don't. Right? You haven't heard their whole story. You haven't listened to their whole story. So she says, look at that painting. And in 10 minutes, they say, I see this. In an hour, they say, oh, I see that the blue here matches the blue over there. In 2 hours, they say, oh, I see how this echoes this and this ties together. This shape links with this shape. And in 3 hours, they see something new. Right? So that deep listening, the cultural experience of a complex, layered experience has so much to offer. And it actually has so much to offer us as people. Right? And for us to grow as individuals by experiencing this kind of culture. This minister in the UK used to argue that it was crucial for the benefit of society that all people had a chance to experience this level of art and think about it deeply, because it would make them more resilient and to have more capacity to deal with trouble in human life if you engage with complex experiences. Right? So it's not about who's fancy and who's rich and wealthy, but it's really that the benefits of that kind of deep thinking and engagement are important for all living people. And therefore, she decided as a government, society needed to support that so that everyone in the community had a chance to experience that, not just wealthy people that would go to it anyways. Right? So, some other concepts we see in American cultural policy that are important for arts managers to keep in mind are what we call the dual bottom line of mission money. And I always say it's tricky for our young people to explain to others how hard their job is. Because people always say, oh, I work at a bank, that's really hard. We have a lot of money, it's really tricky stuff. And I say, well, you have a simple job, because all you're really worried about is, do I have more money at the end of the day than I have at the beginning of the day? And if I have more money, then I win. But for us, we have to take care of the mission, the job of the arts organization. Are we doing that well? But then are we also managing the resources? Are we managing the money effectively? And sometimes the money is little, and sometimes the mission gets weak, and we have to very carefully manage both things. And sometimes they pull against each other very hard. That's not easy. Excellence and access, we talk about this in the United States a lot. Sometimes it seems like these really, really complicated but brilliant pieces of art are only appreciated by very few people. So the quality of the art is very high, but the access is very low. Can we find a way to encourage high levels of access for very powerful works, complex works of art? That's something we're really grappling with a lot in the United States. And here's something for the policymakers, is that instrumental and intrinsic have become the words of policymaking in the United States over the last 10, 15 years. And the idea of intrinsic is that art is good just all by itself. Just art is art and it's fabulous. But policymakers usually want something more than that. They want something that connects with the whole society. They think art is just good for you as a person. Art makes you happy. That's great. Don't expect the government to pay for that. You want to be happy? You pay for you to be happy. But when you start saying instrumental, they got excited about that because it seems like art can help other things happen in your community. The example I used in class was the arts in after-school programs, keeping young children off the streets. So the city government might say, oh, those young kids are hanging around after school in the park and they're up to no good, they're causing trouble. Well, maybe there's an after-school art program they could go to. And all of a sudden they're in the art program, they're enjoying it, they're doing well, they're not on the streets, they're not causing trouble. The government is very happy. And they say, how many people that? With 100 kids. 100 kids off the street? That's impressive. Get those 100 kids off the street. And then so they say, oh, art was good. Art is good in helping us keep kids off the street. Not because art is good, because it's art. So we see that a lot now in the United States. Policymakers love that. Because it's also easy to count them. 100 kids. Seems like a lot. The consumer and citizen. In the United States, it's a market economy, so we really talk about how much art you can buy. And that's really the bottom line. You want to go to art, you got to pay for it. Everybody else, too bad. We have a little bit of art in schools, but not very much. So in other countries, you might say that art is a right of being a citizen, or art is a right of being a resident. You pay taxes to your government. The government has an obligation to provide you with access to your own culture, or the culture of the country you're living in. The UK has free museums, so you get a chance. Everybody in the UK can go to the museum every single day if they want, and look at all the great works of British culture and other cultures around the world and learn to understand other people and other places and themselves. And all visitors, like myself, can go there as well for free. Right? So culture as a citizen, as a right, versus culture as a consumer product that is purchased. A great arts manager understands organizations. In the United States, we have a very balanced approach to this. We have a lot of private sector work, we have some public sector, and we have some nonprofit sector work, meaning that we have arts organizations in all these categories. They serve different purposes. Obviously, the private sector is for the private good, the personal good of the owners. The public sector is for the good of the people, in theory. And the nonprofit sector is a blend of both. A privately functioning organization that serves a social purpose. And for doing that, the government gives the nonprofits certain benefits to enable them to tackle that social purpose or that social challenge, some tools to do that work. So here are a few examples of things. The government sector in the United States has these kinds of institutions in it, usually in Washington, D.C., where the capital of the government is. They want you to be able to go to the capital of the United States and see something for free, because it would be embarrassing if you had to pay for everything. So at least if you go to the capital, there's some free things. In the private sector here, commercial theater, especially Broadway theater, the musicals, that's all commercial, some dance companies, classical music groups, and down here, large classical orchestras, opera companies, dance, and regional theater are nonprofit. So there's a blend of those three sectors of the economy with arts organizations in all of them. So obviously you need to understand the environment. So we have things, just some fun facts, which I showed most of them yesterday about policy. US organizations get between 2 and 8% of the annual budget from government. Some people don't know that. Cultural policy in the United States is very narrow, meaning it focuses only on arts. Museum policy, symphony policy, very, very narrow understanding of the word culture. We just talked about that we have private and nonprofit and less organizations in the public sector than other places. We have a federalist structure, which means that policy making and organizations exist at every level: national, state, national, regional, state, and local. So we have a lot of government, but it's very, very spread out, and everyone sort of does their own thing. So there is not a centralized approach. It is not a unified vision for culture in the United States. It's spread out among many, many different places, and a lot of people have an input, which is great to have a lot of different input, a lot of different voices, a lot of different access. But if you want to drive the ship in one direction, it's very hard in the United States, because everyone wants to go their own direction. So we have trouble going in a straight line forward. We always veer all over the place. Right? So pluses and minuses of every system. In the United States, the policy is sort of, can be narrowed down to efficiency and equity. The idea is that the economists want markets to function perfectly efficiently, regardless of what happens to anything else. But politicians don't like that, because they have to get elected, and they want to get re-elected. So they need to listen to the people in their community. And if they say, I'm being left out of this thing, why did you put in this solution which seems like it makes sense for economics, but it doesn't make sense for our people in our community? So the tension between economic efficiency for policy and political concerns is a tension that probably exists everywhere, but we see this a lot in the United States. Arts managers need to think about that and understand how that works so they can participate in that conversation. As sort of a summary of the last 50 years of American policy, I created this chart to sort of try to break it down as simple as possible, I was hoping. That at the beginning of our policy making, which was right after World War II, we started with just a very, very casual, zero government involvement at all. And then in 1965, the National Endowment for the Arts, which is the main federal arts agency, was founded, and a lot of energy went to Washington, D.C., to the government, the federal government. And money was coming, and they gave money to the states, and things started to get big, and artists were sponsored, and everything was exciting, and people were growing. But primarily the wealthy, established arts organizations that had deep connections and political connections were the ones getting funded, along with several famous artists that were quite visible. But in 1995, 1996, we had sort of a challenge in our government, where the government changed over, and there were several factors that happened around the world. And one of the things that happened is people started to say, we don't really understand this art produced by these elite arts organizations anymore, and we don't understand why we have to pay for it. If they're going to do their fancy art that nobody understands, and some of it we find offensive, then we regular people don't want to pay. And so there was like a revolution sort of in government about this, and the National Endowments for the Arts budget was cut basically in half, and they tried to close the organization. And hung on by like a vote or two. They just managed to survive. Incidentally, President Trump has proposed to cancel the organization completely for next year. But there's so many friends in Congress now, in the legislature, but they will put the money back into the budget. So it becomes like a game. The president will take it out, the legislator will put it back in, and they'll win that conversation. It seems almost certain. So what happened in response to this trauma of sort of, we don't get you anymore, what are you doing? Arts leaders started to say, well, maybe we should connect better with regular people and help them think about it, and we should learn from them what they're thinking about. So this emphasis on going back to the local, from the central, from national, to the local, and creating more of a bottom-up approach of thinking instead of a top-down approach from government became more present. And particularly from 2010 on, it's really grown exponentially. So a young arts emerging professional would understand the funding environment. In the United States, that means money comes from the government through these agencies, national, regional, state, and local. They come from large foundations like the Bill Gates Foundation that gives money around the world for charitable causes. And it comes from private corporations, just a little bit, because they don't like controversy, and individuals, which is the real secret weapon of American policy. Individual people deciding to fund an individual arts organization that they like is how most of America funding happens. So, I broke down like 10 slides into one slide last night. And what we have here is, this is the national agency that everyone thinks of in America as the arts. National Endowment for the Arts. Of course, it has it in the name, as National Arts, of course. Everyone thinks that's the Ministry of Culture. We do not have a Ministry of Culture. This is a small federal arts agency tucked into a little building somewhere in Washington, D.C. But that is 47 cents per person. Not a lot of money. And people get outraged saying, well, your national arts organization only gives 47 cents, where my Ministry of Culture gives $15 per person. America is crappy because they do not like the arts, they don't give any money. But I say, no, there's more to the story. It's just hidden because America is decentralized. Other federal arts agencies like the Smithsonian Museum Complex, which is 17 museums in Washington, D.C., the Library of Congress, public broadcasting, public radio, all the National Gallery of Art, all these things are hidden in the budget. They're not in the National Arts Agency. And they account for $2.3 billion. The states, 50 states together, add $360 million to the arts for their states. Not a ton of money, but some. The local kicks in another $860 million. So that starts to add up. So total government funding is $3.5 billion, which is $10.60 per person. Okay, now we're closing in on Europe kind of money, right? But then here comes the secret weapon. Individuals give money directly. We call this indirect funding because they choose to do it themselves. It doesn't go through an agency or a government. It doesn't come directly from the Treasury. It comes from individual people. Go for $19.49 billion last year. That is $59 per person to the arts. And I have to tell you, here's the sad thing, or the crazy thing. That amount of money only equals 5% of all the money Americans give to charity. So the arts only get 5% of the... What if we got 6 or 7 or 10? Now we'd really be doing well. What do you think gets the most money? What charities, what type of charity gets the most money in the United States? I think somebody here told me that it's the same here. Religious. Religious, did you say that? I thought you did, yeah. Religious organizations get the most money. I think it's about 33% of all, 35% of all money that's donated in the United States to a charity goes to religion. Which kind of makes sense because religions have no earned income, usually. You know, they're not selling tickets, usually. Come to church, buy a ticket. You know, they're not selling tickets. Where we sell tickets, so we could earn money through tickets. They're basically all charity money. So they need a lot of money. They don't have other ways to make money. We have some other ways to make money. We get a government grant, we sell tickets. We're not completely reliant. 35% of an average budget in an American arts organization comes from people. 35%. whereas 2 to 8% comes from the government and 50% comes from ticket sales, on average. So you can see it's tickets and individual people that are the ones that corporations give like 4%. I know corporations are more important here, and in England they're more important as well, but not in the United States. So then you got to understand management. You got to understand the value chain. Where do we add value? All right? You have to understand that government may want to help the supply. Government may want to increase demand. Looking here at all the places that the arts are moving along, are there blocks to this? Are there places where things are not working effectively and not letting the art go through? Distribution has been a huge one, right? With the internet and like being able to download songs for free. That was a game changer for money in the arts, right? When all of a sudden all your songs were free instead of people having to pay for them through distribution changes, right? And this goes to our thing about saying, if we are talking about the value chain, how do we measure value? This is a really tricky one that we're grappling with in the United States. We're being asked to be more accountable than ever, which means we have to focus on measuring our results and evaluation. But what are the results in a nonprofit organization? We're right there saying, we're not trying to make a profit. So profit can't be our result. So what is our result if it's not profit? We must develop an honest, accurate indicators of success to convince donors and government and individuals that we're doing a good job. In other words, that we're adding value to society. So here's a little chart I created the other day. It's very easy to understand a for-profit company. You put in a little money, the company does something, it takes labor and machinery and supplies and all sorts of physical resources and mixes it all around, boom, and you get more money, hopefully. And it's very easy to tell that the company's successful or not, because if this dollar sign is bigger than this, you must have added value here. It took the little money and turned it into big money. So that company must be good. But here in the arts, we use money as an input to pay salaries and make shows. We do all sorts of things here. We make a show, we get everybody together, we rehearse, we present it. And what do we get for an output? We get a show, but what do we get for an output? What? The audience will be there, and hopefully it's a lot of audience. But you know, sometimes we can't just say, well, I had 1,000 people came to my show last year, and this year I had 2,000 people, so my company must be great. At least this is what I say. I say, it might be great. It might be doing better, but you know, what if you had better advertising this year? What if you did a more popular show this year? In fact, maybe your shows were worse than last year, but you did a popular show and people came anyways. So sometimes using an audience number of counting is not actually an indicator of success. And that's what I mean about finding robust indicators of success. What I say here, and this is just my personal statement, I say we put in money, we do all this value add, and what we get out of here is lives changed. Right? We change lives through our art. But you know, it's very hard to talk to a company and ask for money by saying, you know, we change lives. In fact, this year we've had a 7.8% increase in lives changed. They would love you to say that, right? But what the heck does 7.8% increase in lives change mean? How would we even know that, right? So we have to think of indicators that can say, are we changing people's lives for the better? Are we changing our community for the better? What type of impact are we having, the value we have? We're not going to be generating more money. We're using that money as a tool to accomplish our goal, not an end, not a goal in itself. Right? And sometimes we always just say, what do people say? Oh, I know they're good. I know that theater's good. But now people are saying to us, really? How good are they? And a lot of people don't have an answer. So we need to think about that. Young arts managers. Marketing, tricky stuff. I talked about this a little bit earlier. We are arts insiders. We speak the language of art, we love art, we know art, but most of the time we're talking to people that are arts outsiders. You know, I always say to somebody when, I think I said this the other day, that, you know, there's lots of young people who are crazy about musicals. Does anybody like Broadway musicals here? Nobody? Thank you. One person, two people like Broadway musicals. And a lot of times people that love musicals will see them over and over again. I know a lot of people that have seen Hamilton like 5 times or whatever, you know, The Lion King, whatever. And then what they want to do is they say to their friend, you've got to come with me. Because this show changed my life. You know, this is like a dream, this show. And you need to come. And they're like, well, you know, I don't go to a lot of musicals, but I'll go with you. And you bring them to the show. And they see it, and you turn to them and say, wasn't that the most amazing thing you've ever seen in your whole life? And what do they say? Oh, it was okay. Yeah. They've never seen a show before. You're an arts insider. You know everything about shows. You're educated about shows. You have all the information about shows. They don't. They don't know about shows. They don't have the information. They don't understand it. So when you say, didn't that just change your life? They're like, no, maybe. You know, they want to be nice to you. Right? They say, okay, a little bit, you know, so they'll be nice. But you know, it's too much for them to make that leap from knowing nothing to being a huge fan. It's like you listen to complex classical music, listen to Schoenberg for the first time. You want to like throw yourself out a window when you hear Schoenberg. You're like, 12-tone music? I don't get that. It's crazy music. You know, they always talk about the Rightus Ring and that story about Debussy trying to jump out the bathroom window because the crowd rioted during the performance of Rightus Spring the very first time, which I don't think is actually a true story, but everybody tells that story. So like the audience did not get it. They thought it was crazy music, you know. So most people are not going to, we're insiders. So we have to think very carefully. We're talking to outsiders a lot. I would say many of you here are students in the graduate program, or at least there's a chunk of you that are students in the graduate program. I always say to my students, I say, I'll have a class of, let's say, 30 graduate students. And I'll say, in America, 11% of adults have a graduate degree. 11%. But in that classroom, 100% of people will have a graduate degree at the end. So I say, you're not a representative view of America. You are an elite, special, unique subset of America. So when you turn to your friend and say, oh yeah, I love the arts and I'm going to graduate school, and they're like, me too, I love the arts, I'm in graduate school, right? You are unusual. You know, you are outliers, right? So you have to remember that when you talk to people that there's an insider-outsider connection, and we have to find a way to do this. And I'll show you a chart in a minute that I hope helps us think about this. So again, we have baby boomers. They're our primary audience, but young people are different than baby boomers. They consume art differently. They think about art differently, right? We're trying to be aware, we talked about this earlier, Michael Porter's 5 forces model of industry competition calls this substitute products. The other leisure and entertainment. What could substitute for an art experience? Other leisure entertainment, leisure products could substitute for art. We're not so unique that people just will only consider art when they're thinking about their free time. Education, income, and experience with the arts as a child are so important in the United States for determining attendance. But can we do better than that? And I think education is part of that. Unfortunately, we've cut arts education in the United States. It seems that certain factions of the government believe that keeping people uneducated in the United States, hope I'm not on camera, is a good idea, all right? And I don't necessarily believe that's the way to make society successful by trying to limit access to education. But we're seeing that now when we've raised a generation of Americans with no arts education, that will hurt your arts audience in the future. Right? The arts are social. I did this exercise in class before, and since you seem to be such a great participating audience with one person raising their hand, let's see if we can do a little bit better. I'm going to say, which one of you decided not to go to an arts event because you didn't have a friend to go with you? Has anybody decided to stay home because they didn't have a friend to go with them? No one? Everybody goes all the time by themselves? You guys are hardcore. That's amazing. Usually my class, like 80% of the students will raise their hand. And I say, because the arts are so social. What do you do after the show? You're like, I want to talk to you about the show. What did you see? What did you do? You're like, did you see that scene? I don't get that scene. What was that about? You immediately want to turn to a friend and talk about your experience. You want to share art. All right? Now, maybe everybody does with their phone, like you're in the middle of the show. Oh, I'm texting somebody, look at that. Wish you were here. You know, or something. I don't know if that works. But, you know, usually you want to like tap your friend and go, look at that. Did you see that? All right? So the arts are social. So we're thinking of ways in the United States to make helping people connect with other people that are like them to share the experience. And the example I use is a lot of young professionals clubs. So young people that, let's say, 35 years and younger that are working, they come a little bit early, they have some wine, they have some snacks, and they meet the director, and the director gives them a private conversation about the play before they go in. And it's like 45 minutes, half hour, not too long. But they're like, everybody in this room is like me. A young working person starting their career, moving up, and all of a sudden I have these 30 people in this room. They're like me. They could potentially be my friends. You know, they could be a theater buddy. We could go meet at the shows or go out for a drink. So now I've created a little community. They say, I know there's old people at the theater. A lot of old people. There's not young people like me. Well, now there are. And you can meet them and get together with them. Remove like that. Remove barriers to participation. Right? If the parking lot is broken up with no lighting, old people will not come. I should have said, I'm sorry, it's terrible. Senior, experienced theater goers. I'm an old person. I should be careful. Experienced theater goers will not come if the parking lot is unsafe. If it's not lit, they'll feel afraid. What if the seats are really hard? Right? Nobody wants to sit on a hard seat the whole time. What if the theater's always freezing? And here's the funny one. This is a killer, and women know this. I just said, women's bathrooms. Do I need to explain any further? Women's bathrooms. All theaters run on the ability to get 500 women to go to the bathroom during intermission in 15 minutes. And they have one bathroom. You know, so the line for the women to go to the bathroom is like a mile long, and the show is ready to start. And if you start, they're going to freak out. Like, I'm waiting to go to the bathroom, you started the show. I paid for the show, what are you doing? But you only have one bathroom. The worst for me when I was an arts manager is when they'd have one bathroom and my artists would have to wait in line in their ball gowns with the audience to go to the bathroom. And boy, was that awkward. Really awkward. To be like, wearing their ball gown. So he goes, you sing nicely. Thank you. It's like you're trapped, right? You're in a line with women going to the bathroom. It's like, you have to just stand there and wait for your turn. And my singer friend goes, and you know everyone's listening to you in the bathroom because you're the superstar in the ball gown, and everyone goes, she's in the bathroom there. Yeah. So bathrooms, it's sort of funny, but here's a very interesting thing. America's always tried to think about making money. So we have football stadiums, American football, which is a huge deal. Traditionally, women haven't liked football very much. It's incredibly violent, very physical, very masculine sport. But the NFL decided to start promoting the game to women. They said, why? Because women make a lot of the purchasing decisions in households. And they buy all the souvenirs. And these industries run on t-shirts and jerseys and hats and souvenirs. They sell billions of dollars of shirts and hats. So the women always buy shirts and hats for their boyfriends and their husbands. So they said, we're going to just market to women. The men are coming already. We're just going to completely market to women. But what did they need to do? They needed to make the environment safer and better for women. So they cut out a lot of alcohol in the stadiums in certain times so that people wouldn't be so drunk. And then they tripled the amount of women's bathrooms. So they rebuilt stadiums and added more women's bathrooms. Because when they built a stadium 100 years ago, 5 women would go. So they had like one bathroom for 10,000 people, or 50,000 people. So now they put many, many more women's bathrooms to make it a more comfortable experience for women to attend. Right? Admittedly, they're probably thinking about money instead of women, really, but you know, they made the change, right? They made the change. So barriers to participation. Create pathways to increase engagement. A lot of times we just sell a ticket and the day's over. You want to go? Buy a ticket. Great, see you later. And we never see that person again. It's so hard to get people to come. You got to recognize when somebody new comes to your theater and make sure there's a way to think about them and how to bring them back in the future. So I made this little chart. Single ticket buyers are here, the outside ring. Where's Evelyn? What am I doing for time? 5? Just 5?
5 to 6.
Oh boy, okay. So single ticket buyers out here. Then subscribers that buy a lot of tickets are here. Somebody that gives a gift. Somebody that gives their free time to the company, and then somebody who serves on the board and helps lead the organization. How do we move people from step to step to step? We have to create a pathway to engagement. How do you turn a single ticket buyer into somebody who wants to buy the whole season? Then how do you get them to give a gift? How do you make them say, I love this place, I want to give my time? And then how do I want to serve and help lead? Right, so we need to think better about our pathways to deepening engagement. Our leadership right here, young people, the baby boomers, they're nearing retirement. We have to talk about succession for you young people to take over. We're struggling to find ways to train them because our organizations are, many of them are so small that we don't have a lot of leadership opportunities. Gen X and millennials want to have a legitimate income. The United States has always been famous for paying arts people very low and working them very hard. And people say, I always do it because I love the art. I just love the art, so I'll work for free. But people can't afford to do that anymore. So we're working on new ways to do that because we're trying to prevent burnout. A lot of people are really struggling. They're working so hard, they're working for so little money. And for example, New York City is outrageously expensive. All right? I was saying the other day, my apartment in New York City is the same size as your conference room in the 9th floor. That's my apartment. It's, you know, and it's not free, I'll tell you. So we don't want to have them burn out. We want them to be ready to take over and lead the arts into the future. Something else that's troubling for Americans right now is diversity. We've really struggled with bringing in underserved groups and connecting with all the different types of Americans, because America has a wide range of people living in it. And young people who are more diverse than older people say, I don't want to go to a show if I don't see myself in the audience. If it's just old, rich people, I don't want to go to that show because that's not who I am. I want to see actors on the stage that are like me. I want to see the staff running the organization, the arts managers, I want them to look like me. So we're seeing a lot of change in this area about trying to make organizations open to embracing viewpoints of other cultures and other perspectives, more so than in the past. And finally, we understand community. You can see from 2010-11, after the economy crashed here, it's been up and up and up, particularly at the local, a little bit at the state, nothing at the national. All the action is here at the local. In response, several initiatives have been tried in communities to increase economic development, to make art all over the community, and to create areas where art can be bought and sold in an idea of revitalizing the community with economics and social benefits. Some of the work that I did in this area myself is in Massachusetts, right there. There's the US, that's there. And this is some of the things I came up with, which we won't go over, but I just wanted to show you. I created a model on how cities and towns can incorporate cultural policy into their town, what they needed to do that. So looking at some of the things here, my thing that I found very interesting is that we really needed to see a partnership of local leaders gathering together to help do this work. It couldn't be done by one group or one person alone. You had to bring everyone together and talk. And this has become recognized by other people. The reshaping of municipalities being led by networks of cities, metropolitan leaders, elected officials, companies, universities, businesses, labor, civic. Collaboration and network are the most important foundation for transformative action in a city. Build a strong network and you've set a platform for change. That's what we're seeing right now, joining together to do this. And one example of this is the Natick Cultural Center district that I've been examining. Its mission, create a lively downtown by enhancing cultural, economic, and social life. Not just cultural life, but economic and social life as well. Right? So it's not just about arts, it's about the entire community. They want to be a hub, they want to be a destination for culture, dining, shopping, business, all of these things together, not just arts alone. Remember, arts now connected to the community completely at the center, not at the side. They do this through 4 different kinds of things, and I just have a couple pictures. Oh, looks like you guys do this too. Really well, in fact. That place is amazing. Just the scale is just much larger than, I think it's larger than the town where I live, just those buildings. So, but obviously there's a much more commercial focus. Creative talents and energy, there's much more business and commercial and selling than our community does. There's their mission: creativity, innovation, development today, achieve a creative hub. So there is a commercial sales kind of aspect that we don't have as much of. We have concerts on the common. We have a center area in the middle of town that's a grassy open area. We do public performances for free in the park several nights a week during the entire summer. Everyone comes down, gets some food at the restaurant, puts out a blanket, sits in the lawn and listens to the arts. Meets all their neighbors and their friends from the community. So you see right there. There's the bandstand, people playing, people sitting. Oops, sorry. Just going so fast. There's arts participation as well. In the arts, the audience actively connects with the arts in the community. So they're talking about community building and participation at the cultural district here as well. We have community development. There's the festival right here. It's a spring festival from India being done in the middle of Massachusetts. The idea is to celebrate multiculturalism, communicate with people across barriers and get them to connect with each other. Creative placemaking. They do art around the community to make things more vibrant, to make them inclusive, interactive, sustainable. They do art all over the community. People come down and check it out, and they love it. They do economic development, where they have innovation nights, where companies launch new products at these nights. So connecting with business as well, not just the arts. Obviously, the district here, facilitating exchanges between industries. They're about economic development as well, just on a larger scale. The final thing I want to leave you with is the idea of empathy. A lot of people think that there's private benefits to the arts. And there are, but there's also public benefits as well. And some people overlook this. They think if it's one thing or another, private or public. There's much more in the middle. And what I would argue to you is that by participating in the arts, you see what it's like for other people to live and do things. Like if you go to a show about a divorced family, and some of your friends are divorced, their parents are divorced, you say to yourself, oh, I see. I really see and feel now from the stage what it's like to be divorced. What a feeling that must be. I have much more sympathy now, and I understand what it's like to be that person a little more. And when we understand what it's like to be other people and to take their perspective and understand their value, we are more patient with each other. We communicate better. We trust better, right? And we understand each other better. And those bonds are so important. I'm going to just say, moving from the elites to the top down, bottom up, technology is accelerating this, art is expanding, an increased focus on inclusivity and diversity in the United States. And the final thing for me is this. We know government support is declining around the world. Arts leaders need to step up and use their creativity. Use cultural entrepreneurship, start new businesses, think of new ways of doing things. Don't just sit and, we know government's going to pull back because the money's always tight. We have to think out of the box a little bit. Like I said earlier, we need to think outside the organization. We need to think global and locally. Build the community, but also build those networks that go internationally like we're doing right now. Arts and empathy. When everyone can participate in the arts, we all benefit individually and as a society. Creating effective solutions to big problems require everyone's participation. So those networks of private people, public people, and nonprofit people will save the day, I hope. Get involved, volunteer. And the final thought is, for me, culture is like oxygen. Nobody notices it, but you don't realize how important it is until it's gone. And for my final sentence, I'll say my water example that I used in class that Patrick loves. So, we may not love it, but he remembered it. The idea is, the line is that an old fish is swimming by, and two young fish come swimming by the other way. And the old fish passes the young fish and says, "Hey boys, how's the water today?" And the young fish don't say anything, and they swim on for a while. And one young fish looks at the other fish and goes, "What's water?" So we swim in art. We swim in culture. And a lot of times we don't even recognize it. And the other people in our community, people that are not arts insiders, may not recognize it. But when the water's gone and the oxygen is gone, the society dies. So we need to show them the water. Okay?
好，非常感谢啊。那刚刚Dr. Maloney 分享很多在美国的一些观念，还有一些他的想法跟他的一些他自己的 output。那不晓得我们在座的同学们有没有，我们有一点点的时间，所以有没有一个问题或两个问题？有没有？Okay.
I can only guess by the silence. So you asked anyone if they had questions. That's what I'm guessing.
They're just in the water. So. Well, 刚刚Dr. Maloney, you raised the question about the box office.
Yes.
Ticket sale for the United States.
Yeah.
You know, in Taiwan, the ticket percentage to a performing art group is normally like 12 to 15% only. It's very different than in the States. And we got a lot of money from government. I think that's the only way they can survive. 好，刚才分享说那个票房的问题吧，因为在台湾的表演艺术团大概有12到15%，就对他们来讲，整个收入是票房，其他大部分很多超过大概一半以上都是政府。政府虽然在补助的时候说不会给你超过1/3，但事实上他们从各种不同的管道，从政府拿到非常非常多的钱。好，你有问题吗？
Arts administration, how do we get the community together? Do you have the methods for any advice?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Obviously, people are working on this right now, but I think the key thing is that you need to develop an authentic connection before you ask for help. Okay? A lot of people say, well, I need some money from people, so I'm just going to go ask them. Just going to ask for money. And it's true that the number one principle of fundraising is people give because they're asked. That's it. People say, I didn't give because I didn't know, so nobody asked me. So the number one principle of fundraising is people give because they're asked. But I would say that the successful ask that results in a gift is because there's been a relationship that started and has been built up over time. Particularly, too, if you're trying to reach people from other types of communities and other ethnicities, other backgrounds in your community, you can't simply go up and say, come to my show. Buy a ticket to see me. They say, why am I going to give you money? What have you done for my community? You know, so starting to develop a relationship with people in the community, with young people in ways, and work your way up, and then it becomes a natural thing to then participate and come and spend money at my place. And the other piece of that is then follow up afterwards. Arts organizations are very bad at this. They get the gift, and they're like, okay, see you later. Talk to you next year. And you have to thank them. You have to stay in touch with them, because people say, the only time you ever call me is when you want money. And that's true. Some places do that. So you need to think of approaching people and developing a relationship before, then have the experience, and then follow up after the experience. And we're talking about the idea of, it's a little bit of a joke, but we'll try to translate it. We talk about fundraising in the United States, raising money, raising funds. We're talking about here about friend raising, increasing the number of friends your organization has. So don't think of them only as money, raising funds. Think about increasing the number of friends of my theater or my opera. Okay.
刚刚Dr. Maloney 讲了一个非常重要的概念，就是我们在募款，其实我们是在募朋友，把这个朋友的数目增加的话，当然成功率就非常非常的高了哈。好，那我想我们今天的这个专题演讲我们就到这边结束，我们再次掌声，谢谢。我们要再合照一下。
金老师，你再来，我们再合照一张哦。另一个方向再一次哈。好，谢谢大家。我们这一场次的那个专题演讲到这边结束，然后待会我们外面备有这个茶点的，大家可以就是享用一下。然后待会40分的时候，我们会分场方式进行这个论文发表哈，就上下2场。这边在的表艺中心进行的是这个表演艺术教学和剧场艺术教育，然后9楼在楼下那边会有表演艺术中心的，就是音乐剧，他们是表演艺术产业与经营管理，所以分场进行，就看大家的那个对于哪一个领域有兴趣的话，可以选择，它是同时进行的哈。我们40分开始，谢谢大家。
你整个变了哎，还是你那样。刚毕业嘛，现在没毕业。就我就想说，我记得你小我10岁。这给你，超可爱，你做的吗？不是，我拿的。好厉害哦！ 超厉害。之后你高考之后，我跟你出去外面聊。
It's one of the best in the country. There's not too many really good ones. I mean, definitely, you're about 40 years old. What about what? Just general business guys? Well, we do my program is performing arts management, and then my colleague does visual arts management, and we do music business. All three degrees in the same department. Yes, February 1st is the deadline. So so I handle the theater, the opera, the symphony orchestra, dancers. The visual people will do galleries, art films, biennales, museums, auction houses, selling crystals. And then they'll do music, they do record companies, they do touring, they do golf clubs, recording studios, commercials. We do also Broadway. So those are the areas we cover, and then we share some of the clients. So if you were in all you would be able to take classes in music business or visual and you pick one of them to apply directly to the you're about to start. We can talk. We don't want to walk away getting started.
看你方便，这样可以同步，你就传给谢谢哦，谢谢。 写4个小时。我要学习，我自己想写，我自己想写的。他们学校用叫自行车，然后他们叫我们写广告，然后叫我们去接，用 bike 就好。我接一整天下来。可能直接走就240，然后就是用合作，他不是。不是这个，哎，为什么他们一个时期？那也是叫 Uber 啊，不是叫叫。对啊，我也在卖早上。Uber 不合法。我认真看到查了，那个他是新台艺还是北艺？对，什么都没有，就是茶包。你写什么现场版的？你写理数。这个他们翻得很滴滴答答，就是 OK， 很干扰，就是他们边讲话，你要带人就觉得好累。你写武术。所以我的东西应该对你们比较有用。就是专业，就是很专业，很多专业。这种重复的那个文化遗产，我的一个新鲜听得懂这样。
好，那我们就接着开始这场论文发表哦。这场是表演艺术教学与剧场艺术教育，我们把时间交给表演所的李燕怡副教授。
大家好，因为我们先把门关起来好了。好，我想今天我们的重点是在学生还有老师给的 feedback， 所以我也不占用太多时间。首先，我先介绍2位就是来讲解的给评语的2位老师，一位是陈维芳老师，他是在戏剧治疗上非常非常的算是台湾真的很重要的一个老师推手哦。然后下一位是我们的刘淑英刘教授，然后是我们艺访老师的同班同学哦，这是很好很好的一件事情。然后那我们接下来就把时间就是交给我们研究生，让他好好的发表，因为我们只有人数比较少，所以我想说还是会提醒你时间，但是就是让你尽量慢慢的不急啊，把话讲完，然后你想讲的都表达完之后，然后也让老师好好的2位老师都给评语，好吗？好，那我们就开始了。
好，各位老师同学大家好，我是台师大表演艺术研究所行销及产业组硕2的研究生秉贵。那今天我要发表的论文是表演艺术之武术元素应用研究。那大家都知道，武术它是中华文化的代表之一。它除了包含运动生理学、医学、力学原理，还有医学保健以外呢，它更包含了丰富的人文精神，有别于其他的运动项目，发展出一套独特的体系。从原始时代最初的防御攻击，逐渐发展出许多的拳种风格，同时也形成了各家的门派。这些拳术的演变过程呢，除了肢体的运用、发劲等实用功能以外，也随着社会形态之改变，渐渐地产生一些以表演为主的形式。 那接下来呢，我将以4个部分和大家进行我的报告。第一个部分呢是我的绪论，会和大家说明我的研究背景与动机，再来是文献探讨，还有第3个就是研究方法与架构，最后是我预期的结果。好，首先第一个进入到我的研究背景与动机。那因为呢，我本身也是一个武术爱好者，然后从小也练武术，所以我希望撰写跟武术相关的论文。那在这样的查找资料的过程中，我就发现武术结合艺术相关的论文非常的稀少，多半呢它都是跟运动项目做结合。那同时呢，武术它从表演艺术下去谈论武术的书籍也非常的罕见。多半都是着重于武术居多，很少去谈它的表演性质。但是呢，现今已经有许多的表演艺术团体将武术应用在他们的表演艺术当中，所以我相信他们武术在表演艺术当中是具有一定的发展性。那从这样的发展性当中，我希望透过这样的研究去了解它表演形式还有没有在更高的精致性，进而提升它的武术本身的艺术价值。好，也就是说，我的研究问题与研究目的就会分3大部分。第一个就是探讨武术元素应用于表演艺术的呈现，那再来就是探讨表演艺术节目中武术它是怎么去呈现与规划，再来就是武术在表演艺术中未来它的展望是什么。好。那因为呢，中华武术它的历史是非常的悠久与博大精深，如果要去细细的探讨武术，其实非常难的详尽，所以我将以下面这4种形式大致作为一个区分。第一个就是以战斗技击为主，单纯的打斗，最原始的你打我，我打你。那再来就是到第2部分，就是将这样的格斗，你打我，我打你，作为一个表演，作为一个娱乐。再来第3部分呢，就是以纯武术表演为呈现，就是单纯，例如说演绎好一套拳，或者是一套剑术的表演，或者一套刀术的表演。那第4部分就是武术与表演艺术做融合，它可以是跨界的，例如说跟音乐、舞蹈、戏剧做结合等等。好，那接下来进到第2部分，我的文献探讨。我的文献探讨呢，会分第一个就是中华武术的起源，会探讨中华武术它的发展简史，以及介绍中华武术著名的拳种介绍。那也会提到说大陆近代武术发展的概况，以及台湾近代武术发展的概况。那武术的起源呢，其实是可以最直接的追溯到原始的社会。那当时的人类会用棍棒等工具和野兽搏斗。那在这样的过程中，他们逐渐累积了一些攻防的经验。那人类就慢慢的学会如何保护自己，还有攻击敌人。在这样的过程中，慢慢的产生出拳法，然后有各门的门派等等。那它也会因为地理气候的条件不同，形成不同的风貌。例如说，我们有南拳北腿之说，因为南方人都是比较高大，所以他们擅长腿法。那北方人呢，他们比较矮小精干，所以他们的拳是比较精致。但其实也不一定，像例如说八卦掌就很少有腿法的攻击。那南方的咏春拳也有不少的腿击技巧等等这些。那简单提一下大陆的武术发展概况以及台湾武术发展概况。大陆目前呢，主要是以新武术作为发展，他们将武术归类成是一种运动竞技，所以他们会在各大的运动赛事中出现，例如说亚运等等。那台湾这边比较不一样的就是，它跟我们的民俗文化做一个结合，它与我们的庙宇还有一些民俗的一些治疗做一些结合，会更相较于大陆而言，我们台湾这边是会比较亲切，也比较多元。好，那接下来就是要讲武术元素在表演艺术中它是怎么去运用，因为武术本身就是一个极具特色的肢体表现。那现今的表演艺术更有不少是以武术为主题上演，那它俨然是成为一种多元的表演艺术，可以单独欣赏或是跟音乐搭配，也能够融合于舞蹈或者衬托戏剧，将它张力拉开。了解武术与其他艺术的关联性，就从以下这4个部分 加以探讨。第一个就是武术与美学，再来就是音乐、戏剧、舞蹈。那例如说以武术与戏剧来讲好了，有许多的拳种它都是以动物的名称下去命名，为什么呢？它是例如说螳螂拳、虎拳、鹰爪拳，都是古人的智慧，他们去观察动物怎么去攻击敌人，然后慢慢的衍生出这样的拳种，那它就具有一个模仿的那个形式存在。那像中国的戏曲也有许多是运用很多有武戏的成分，所以武术与戏剧是具有非常高度的关联。再来，在众多的表演艺术当中，武术与舞蹈也是非常密切的相关，有许多舞蹈都是将武术将它舞蹈化。那现今有许多的武术表演，为了要让它更具表演的形式，也把武术变成像是在跳舞一样的呈现。那也就是说，目前有许多的舞蹈家同时也学习武术，将武术融入于他们的创作当中。好，那再来就是探讨说武术元素应用于演出。那现今武术表演呢，是已经走向与各种表演元素结合，成为一种极具特色的表演艺术。在中华文化中，它不单只是一个体育的项目，更是一种修身养性的法门。那它也不再只是拳打脚踢的功夫，更蕴含了丰富的人文思想。那它的价值并非建立在实用的积极目的，更以表演艺术的方式，让更多人认识武术的肢体律动与它的积极之美。那接下来我就是会以台湾的表演艺术团体为例，例如云门舞集，然后悠人神鼓以及琥珀中国舞集，他们是怎么将武术元素融合到他们的表演之中？例如云门舞集，他们将太极导引融入到他们的作品。那悠人神鼓在训练团员的过程中，也有运用到了许多武术训练的方法，例如要静坐等等。那琥珀中国舞集呢，就是主打以武术表演艺术为主，在台湾各大的表演会节目当中去呈现演出。那在这样的前提之下呢，借武术表演，它更是可以加深另外一种表演艺术的可看性与特殊性，那使得在大型表演艺术中更具张力，然后也让它更加的完整。那同时也是文化的传承。那我的研究方法呢，是会以个案分析还有深度访谈为主，从带有武术元素的表演艺术节目中加以探讨。那会联系相关的团体还有专家进行深度的访谈，综合文献回顾还有个案探讨，交叉分析产出我的论文。那我的研究架构与流程呢，分为这6大部分：研究背景与动机，再来就是研究目的、文献探讨，然后研究方法就是如上述所说的，我是将以访谈的方式进行，那最后得到我的研究发现，然后验证我的结论。那我的论文进度甘特图会从2019年12月到2020年6月，会分为论文撰写，还有文献回顾与分析，再来是拟定访纲，接着进行个案访谈，再来研究发现，最后结论与完成。那最后我的预习结果是了解武术与表演艺术它多元的发展。那第二个就是武术元素应用于表演节目中它的策划的关联。那再来就是提升武术表演形式它的精致性与艺术性。那以上是我的参考资料，谢谢大家。
那我们是不是就先请陈老师还是刘老师来为先？
大家好，我是戏剧治疗师陈伟芳。我其实会有一点忐忑，就是我的背景跟这个论文的关系这样子。不过我看到这个论文的时候，其实很兴奋，因为就是武术的这个元素，就是的确是我从来没有去思考过的。因为戏剧治疗其实是一个从西方，就是我是学英国念的嘛，就是
基本上这个专业是从西方发展出来的，然后就是我觉得我们在讨论就是肢体的应用跟人的关系跟角色之间，就是这些我们都还是比较直基于西方的戏剧这样子，所以我其实一直也有在想，就是到底这个东西在台湾东方人的社会里面，就是我们去运用的时候，是不是有它的特殊性这样？所以那时候看到这篇论文的时候就很兴奋，这样，因为我觉得武术的确是一个非常特殊的东西。那我会比较好奇的部分，就是在他心理意涵的层面，就是说，可能在表演的节目里面，就大家知道，就是如果演员要进入一个角色的状态，就是你的身体可能会影响你的心理，就是你可能要去非常的投入在这个角色里面，然